Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining our live session titled Shattering Glass Ceilings Inspiring Futures Women Leading the Way. Today, we'll be delving into the inspiring world of women in leadership, exploring their journeys, challenges, and the profound impact that they are making across various fields. To guide us through this conversation, I'm thrilled to introduce our esteemed guests for the afternoon, featuring Sakshi Kapahi, Director of Umam Consultants Private Limited, one of the top HR consulting firms and leader in HR solutions in India. We also have with us Swarnali Nandi, Operations Director at INT. Both Sakshi and Swarnali are remarkable leaders who have shattered glass ceilings and paved the way for the future workforce, bringing diverse perspectives and valuable insights into this insightful session. I am now handing the floor over to our guests to lead us through this exciting dialogue. Over to you, Sakshi.
Hello, Sakshi. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Swarnali.
Okay, Sakshi. Let us start this session by by learning how you have started your career and how you have achieved this leadership position and what was your learning, what was your experience, because that will help all of us to be enlightened to know that how your feelings was throughout this entire journey.
Wow. Thanks. Swarnali, I started my career, or let me say my education in undergrad in economics, and I worked with Deutsche Bank. And then at some point, I felt that to grow to the next level, I needed a good MBA, whether it was to grow into leadership or to be an entrepreneur. And at that point, I didn't know which way it would be. I went to MIT in Boston. I did my MBA from there. Uh, Took courses in everything from operations to finance to entrepreneurship, just to see what could end up being there. Came back, joined banking again, worked with Deutsche Bank in New York and London for about 7 years, and then wanted to really do something more entrepreneurial. And 11 years ago, I joined Omam. We and I started first as a business manager and then grew into the director. So it was saying step by step, how do you go up? How do you grow? How do you grow the business? How do you grow yourself? Right. So that's been the journey. It's been about 20 years of experience across different geographies, different countries, constantly learning and relearning. So I keep looking at saying what skill sets do I need next and where will they come from. 4 years ago, as an organization, we went into Stanford Seed and we did a program for all me and my senior team leaders saying how will we grow to the next level.
Right.
So I think to answer your question, it's a constant learning. I think we're still figuring out what's next in such an uncertain world. How are we
Yeah.
prepared? How are we growing?
Yeah, actually, leadership is actually a continuous journey. It is not that any point you learn something. It is actually a continuous thing. You keep on learning, keep on, you know, actually unlearning and learning. That's a continuous process that goes into this. You have, worked with different mentors throughout your career. I'm sure that there have been many people who have, touched lives and give you advice, maybe. And we all come through these phases where we meet someone and we feel like, yes, this is something or this kind of advice we were looking for. Right. So, what advice do you feel was the most critical that you have received in your journey so far?
So quite a few, and basis, because it's Women's Day, I'll say it's also pertinent to one is your business career advice, and the second is saying women in business advice.
Right.
And to say that the two are not connected is not right.
Yeah.
I know we want to say that we are equal, so let's not talk about the women aspect, but we are women. And there's a lot of other things that come with it. But some of the best things that have worked or resonated with me has been, always have a circle of mentors, one or two people, and keep looking. You have to seek your mentors, right? It's not a magic. You have to keep looking and it'll happen. Second is create a support system for yourself,
Mhm.
right? Whether that's to manage your personal life or your work life or your support, whether it's your group of women friends, whether it's a group of your peers, right? That you're in this business and who are you sharing your learnings with. But
Right.
always take stock of where your support system is. And the third is be unapologetically ambitious,
Mhm.
right? Dream big, write it down, and then see how you're going to get it. And don't be apologetic about it. I think that's the biggest one, right? That just put it
Yeah.
out there.
Yes, yes, and also I feel like persistence is something that we have to, that makes us keep going. That we have to be very much persistent, specifically when we are women leaders. So we have to be very much persistent, and we must not be afraid of taking risk, because at times it comes to that whether we should do it or we shouldn't do it. So that comes to that point. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think women are perceived as less risk takers,
Mhm.
and therefore not necessarily given the roles that they deserve. And I think
Mhm.
women don't go out and ask for it, right? I think men will go out and ask, I want this promotion, I want this role.
Yeah.
Women assume somewhere that it'll come to them because their work is good. That's not how it works. Um,
Exactly, exactly. Uh, we all have seen that the last in 2020 we got COVID. That was a completely unprecedented situation. We never knew, we even couldn't ever thought of something like that. Can come and rupture our life and our workplace, everything. So, what do you feel? What are the important qualities that as leaders we should have, so that we can lead during the challenging times or during uncertainties?
so, I think you're right. COVID really was unprecedented, but it's taught us that we can handle anything that comes our way, right? We've all survived through it. But that's what made us realize, right? You don't have to know the answers because you don't know what the next problem or curveball is going to look like. And there's no point panicking. What's coming is coming. So I think just keeping your calm, breaking it down, saying this is the problem, what does this mean, how will we address it? Um, to communicating to your team and to your partners, right? That, and I'm saying all these things as lessons from COVID, saying one of the most challenging situations that any of us faced. That
Yes.
what got us through it was just none of us knew what the answer was. None of us knew how long. It
How
started with
long?
a 15-day and became a 18-month lockdown period. Right? So we all learned with it. So saying that don't try and prepare for everything. Don't expect to know the answers. It's okay to say I don't know what the answer is. But to calmly assess the situation, see what's the best way to deal with it, to talking to all your stakeholders very
Mhm.
honestly and transparently, whether it's your team members or your clients.
Yeah.
Our clients would call us and ask, "Are you around? Are you going to be able to deliver?"
Yeah.
And given the situation, we knew what we could or could not deliver, and I think everyone appreciated that honesty and transparency, and
Mhm.
people wanted to support each other. I think to me, those were the two biggest things of saying how to manage difficult or challenging times.
Yeah. Yeah, also I feel that adaptability is also something that is super critical. At that moment when something new is coming up, we are not very sure how to adapt to that. So to be flexible and to have that kind of resilience and adaptability is also very critical to sustain through the situation.
No, very well put, right? And you don't know what the answer is. So you have to say, okay,
Yeah.
I'll try. Here are my scenarios. I'll try option one. I'll try to put some things around it. I'll try option two. So you have to be very open to it. And you don't know where the answers will come from.
Yeah. So, do you think that women, the way the style of leadership women have, that actually helps to cope up into this during these unprecedented situations? Feel that?
Absolutely. I think as women can handle a lot of different things at the same time, right? As our roles extend beyond work, we're used to handling so much more. I think women in general bring a very different perspective and a calmer perspective. I know we're both generalizing this a lot, but I think women do bring in a stable strength and a silent strength to the team.
Yeah.
That definitely helps.
And there is also an empathetic behavior is also more coming more from the women. They are in general they are more empathetic in nature. They are emotional intelligences
Sonali, I
comparatively.
think you get into trouble for making statements like this. But it has been shown that
Yeah,
where the leadership has a combination of larger number, mix of women and men, those teams'
yeah,
creativities, inclusivity, empathy levels as a team
yeah.
significantly go up. Yeah,
Exactly. So basically, the main strength is behind the inclusivity, the inclusion, and the diversion as well. Like different kind of people when we create a team from different. The more diversity we have in the team, the it actually is stronger. It brings different kind of perspectives, and that helps us to achieve our goal to and have fresh ideas throughout the journey.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, how in your organization, how do you empower the other women employees in your team, in your organization? So, how do you do that?
So, one, we're very clear that the roles are clearly defined. So, regardless of whether you are a man or a woman or anybody, uh, if you're in a particular role, this is what is expected from you, and this is your growth path. So,
Right.
it's not a function of being objective. It's very sorry. It's not a function. It's very clear.
Yeah.
So one is that, right? You have to define what the role involves. You have to define what the next steps for growth are. Then
Mhm.
any individual should know what their next two levels of growth in the company can come like. Second is there's a lot of support around, talk about things, have mentors, have both men and women mentors. It's not like
Mhm.
just because you're a woman, your mentors or your support only has to be other women.
Right.
It can be a combination and it'll
Yeah.
keep changing as your life changes. So we do provide that, right? We talk to each other. Someone's going on maternity for the first time, she really doesn't know what to expect.
Mhm.
What would it be like to have a woman doesn't know how much her life is going to change when she's going to have a baby. And nothing can prepare her for that. So all you can do is say, here's a group of people that you can talk to who've gone through similar experiences and can talk to you. Or somebody is going through a challenge of saying I have children in higher grades, they're very demanding, or I have a sick parent. Those are some of the challenges that women face.
Right.
How do you constantly, so what we do is we constantly try to provide that support, saying you have mentors, you have leaders, and leaders are also responsible to see that if a woman is going through a particularly challenging time, how does she navigate that? So that dialogue is created, career paths are provided very clearly. There's a lot of transparency in the system. And I think sometimes it's just support saying, it's just applauding and supporting, saying you can do it. I think a lot of times that's all that's needed, saying, don't worry, this is, you can grow more than anybody else. You don't have to compare yourself to anyone. So motivating and showing the path is the most important.
And I mean, as human beings, we all need a strong support system around us if we want to go up the ladder, be it a man, be it a woman, at least. But yes, in general, women come with more responsibilities in the home front as well. So definitely, as leaders, we need to provide more support and to help them to understand what is exactly expected out of them, rather what is expected out of the role, and how the mentors can help to achieve that goal. That is very important. So it is critical that how we are setting up the expectation and how
Right.
we are clear we are in that expectation setup.
Right. Absolutely. And this is not a, I think the old school of thought was that you hang out after work, it's a boys' club, you go for drinks, these discussions will happen, informal networks will exist. A lot of women can't do that. I mean, today I have two boys at home, I have two children. I want to go home after work.
Yeah,
So I want that network decision, other things. I love team bonding, but it's not going to happen every day after work.
obviously.
My priorities are different. So, to your point, all that has to be provided within the system of what works with that employee or that team member, and defining that scope
Yeah,
and being
complete.
reasonable about it, right?
Yeah, yeah, completely agreed. I mean, specifically when we are working mothers, somehow we have that priority that we will complete the work, and at least we will be continuing the work from a home. So that kind of thought automatically comes in. It is not always like we can spend after office time in networking and all, and that is a challenge. And at times it may be perceived that maybe this person is not, very devoted to the work. That is why he's always trying to balance the work life. So that is a continuous, at times it also creates a guilt. So do you feel that creates a guilt as well, like I am not doing enough justice to my role at my workplace? Do you
I
ever
think
feel
we
that?
live with perpetual guilt, Swarnali. I think you nailed it. I think we live with mom guilt, we live with daughter guilt, we live with professional guilt. We're
Yeah,
always juggling so much. And for some reason, we've been trained to think that we should be guilty, right? You
yeah,
don't
yeah,
hear that from men, unfortunately or fortunately, that
yeah,
they don't feel guilty about it.
exactly.
Uh, but we feel very guilty about it. And I think that's a battle that we need to fight internally and say that there's no guilt. I'm doing
Yes,
the best I can. And it's okay to define boundaries and lay them down, right? Like you said, so if I'm saying I might do one team dinner every month or 2 months, and it's okay, but I'm not going to do it every week, and it's fine.
yes,
What is it that's going to happen there that I can't do during my work hours?
yeah,
Or even talk to your manager saying, look, I need to go home, or I have a PTM today. But if this is my work, I'll finish it. I'll go home and do it. I'll do whatever. As long as I think that dialogue on both sides is very important. I think there's a lot
yes,
of misconception that builds in on both sides. Like you said, people thinking that, oh, if she's working from home, she's not serious about it, or if she's
yeah,
going home if she has to leave at 6 means she's not dedicated. But maybe
yes.
6 hours was enough to do good, productive work for her.
So it is more about having a clear communication, and to set up like what is the objective, if the objective is being met or not. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that is something, as women leaders we always need to face that kind of criticalities. So do you feel that uh, women leaders, they, I mean, what kind of challenges they generally face, and what kind of changes they need to do to break the barriers and ensure inclusion of everyone into a team? Because many a times we see a very unconscious bias that we don't want women employee if we need to provide nighttime support, for example, or if it is a project where we need to provide weekend work, we don't want female developer or team member into that team. So that kind of unconscious bias many a time plays a role. So what do you think, how that how it can be taken care of? What is your idea behind?
So absolutely right, Swarnali. It's a huge problem, and
Yeah,
we see that all the time, conscious, unconscious. Some people say it, some don't say it.
yeah,
Manager behaviors reflect that a lot for women. And I think first, like you said, communication is very important. And I
uh-huh,
think for the woman also, it's okay to say that, look, sometimes I might not be. So, for example, there are times in life where you know at certain stages in life that you can't do certain things, right? Like I just had my baby, I knew that I'm not traveling. I'm okay to work from a particular place, but I can't travel overnight.
yeah,
If that means giving up on certain projects, you can see there's an option, but if not, then it's okay to let go. It's okay to tell yourself that for these next 6 months or a year, my priorities and balancing is going to be a little different,
uh-huh, uh-huh,
right? And have that chat with your manager saying, this is how it's going to be. Do you think this can work?
uh-huh.
See, hiding also doesn't work. The managers or your project leaders also have deliverables, they also have commitments. Right?
Right.
You don't want to say yes and then not be able to do it. And you don't have to feel guilty about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Right? I've had team members who said, look, I have an aging parent at home. Is it possible to design my role in a way for the next 6 months where I don't have to travel?
right.
Is it possible to give me an assignment which is like this or like that? These are my specific needs. And then there's a lot of commitment saying that it will happen, like you said, right? That work will get done. Let's define the objectives.
Right.
So I think as women, we need to stop feeling guilty about it, but we need to accept what our temporary situation is and work around it and say it's okay.
Mhm.
And then when it's okay, you say, okay, I'm back full time, I'm 100% doing this, whatever this role requires, like
Yes.
travel or late night or evening,
Mhm.
and I'm back to it. So I think our careers as women is not as linear as men's,
Right.
and we need to be okay with that.
Yes. Because somehow as women we always have to prioritize. I mean we prioritize our career, but at the same time we cannot deprioritize family or kids. So somehow there always has to be a balance needs to be maintained. So that's a constant juggle. And I think as the leaders we also need to provide that kind of support, and somehow we need to talk to our team as well, so that they can learn that kind of unbiasedness. They can also start to look into it into with more empathy. They can also see like what kind of workaround can be met with this. So we also need to I won't say teach, but rather talk to our team, so that that kind of thought process and culture can be built up.
No, absolutely. Like I had mentors who saw me through, like you said, you're also a mom and you have kids. It's the hardest stage, right? Coming back to
Yeah,
work when babies are small. That's
yeah,
when like my mentor stepped in and said, we all go through this. This happens. How are you looking after yourself? How are you balancing it out? What does your support system look like?
yeah,
And sometimes it was just a check-in saying it's okay. You'll be fine. Some of them helped me draw a roadmap saying, okay, the next 5 years is going to look like this. Then
yes,
children are far more independent, and then your career trajectory can look like this.
yeah,
So, you have to also, like you said, maybe not teach, but just handhold saying we'll get there. There's a
yeah,
lot of the biggest dropout happens with maternity. So, as leaders, we also have to provide a lot of support there to
yeah.
make women come back.
Mm-hmm.
The campus hiring is not the challenge. Today,
Yes,
the drop is happening as you're going along the curve, sort of, to see where women are falling out and how
yeah.
are you making sure that that support exists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Actually, the comeback after having a baby and to continue with the kind of work you want to do is the most challenging part here. Uh, uh, what's a good indicator to measure the gender equality in a workspace? What do you think? Uh, what are the good indicators that this workplace is having a gender equality? So, what are the things that we should take care of as leaders?
So, one we should look at is our gender pay parity.
Yeah.
For the same amount of work, globally, research is showing that women are far behind men. So, in
Mm-hmm.
any company, can we see that for similar roles and responsibilities, are we paying men and women the same, or is
Yeah.
it different? I think that's one big one that we could address. The second is saying, in general, what is the proportion of women at different levels, junior, mid, senior? And I don't think it can be 50-50 because you also need enough talent available to reach that.
Yeah.
So saying 50-50 in any industry, depending on sectors, could get very difficult. So I think it also has to be fair, but given your sector, where do you stand?
Yeah.
Third is, just studying your internal process and policies, right? Saying that, do I have diversity in different teams, or is it only focused to very typical teams that have more women?
Yeah.
Similar, when you're doing promotions, are you seeing that more men are getting promoted, or are you seeing both? Do you see any biases there?
Yeah.
So, how objective is your process from evaluation to paying to promoting to incentives? A lot of the data will start showing you whether it's equitable or not.
But here, whenever we are talking about promotions and and incentives and all, I think the entire thing should be like the performance. There should not be any gender biasness actually coming into the play. So that is where how we are setting up the expectation from the role. So it should be talking about the role, not about the individual. If an individual, irrespective of that person is a man or woman, is doing justice towards that role and meeting up the expectation, that should be the the rationale behind a good promotion or a good incentive or hike. So that is how we should be promoting it.
Sonali, the problem is that's ideal, but is that happening? A
Mhm.
lot of the bias is so unconscious that often when you talk to leaders, they'll say, no, no, I don't think I'm biased. And that's
Yeah.
when you delve into the data to say that is that happening or not. I think a lot of times it's not intentional.
Mhm. So that
Uh,
is it. Unconsciousness is also there. I mean, it is not always a
Absolutely.
conscious decision that I am doing this, but there is an automatic unconscious inclination towards taking that decision.
So, because what we see is men will, and I'm generalizing here, men will be more vocal about their successes. Men will display it more. Men ask for more promotions.
Mhm.
Men constantly ask for higher growth. Women tend to do that much lower.
Yeah,
And we see this across industries and leaders, that this is a very standard issue, right? That someone's coming to you, is vocal about it, is saying, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, what's next? It's also in your head that, oh, this promotion is due.
right.
And the other person is not doing this, but is quietly just doing her work. It might not come to you. So, idea is to also say that how do you make sure that you remove those unconscious biases and rely on data and objectivity to make
Mhm.
this happen?
Right. Right. Uh, what is your thought? Like, why is it important for all the companies to have a good gender diversity, both within their workforce and among the leadership? Because it is also observed that maybe in the workforce, the ratio may be somewhere in the range of 60-40 or 65-35. But when it comes to the leadership, it can go down till like 25-75 as well. So, what do you feel like? What is important? What needs to be done here?
So two questions, right? You're asking, one is why do it, and I think you and I have discussed the amount of advantages, saying you bring a different perspective, you bring different
Yeah,
empathy. Uh, you also, depending on the industry, your target segment could be a lot of women. Life
yeah,
experiences are different, approaches are different. 50% of the population is women, so not having women catering to a world that caters to half the population is not correct.
yeah.
So there's a lot of advantages and studies that have repeatedly shown that diversity, not just gender, but all diversity in any situation, leads to everybody's growth.
Yeah,
Right? If you're sitting with five people who all are exactly from your background, your community, your school, and your company, you're all thinking only in one way.
that.
Uh, right? So that comes in very importantly. In terms of, does it decline towards the senior leadership? Absolutely. I mean, you see at the CXO level or the board level, the number of women drops significantly, right?
Exactly.
And so the question is saying, how do you arrest that drop off? And typically, we see that happen at maternity, at when children are growing up, like teenagers, and
Right.
then we see it when parental healthcare has to be, or parental health has to be looked after. Those are
Mhm.
the three critical periods that we see women tend to fall off and then not come back.
Right.
We have to start figuring out solutions around that or options around that.
Yeah.
So coming back to work or taking a break cannot be so taboo or so difficult.
Mhm.
We just have to accept that this is the life and this is how it will happen.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I completely agree to that. So somehow that acceptance also needs to be there. That and it is also important that it is okay to let go and it is okay to say no at times. So that and that is how we should mentor the people around us as well, so that it is very well set up what is expected. And I think we also need to have a very positive work environment as well around us, where we can give that kind of a sense of security, a sense of flexibility as well, because mostly we can only ensure a good work life balance with some flexible timing, some flexibility around the work schedule. So probably we need to think of it in more depth, so that we can have women employees more at ease, how they can come up and how they can grow.
So I agree with you completely. I just have one slightly different view here, or the challenge is that all the discussions are around how can we be flexible, what needs to be provided.
Mhm.
Uh, I think one discussion to also be had, and a conversation which is not very easy or beautiful sounding, is saying that look, it's a two-way street.
Mhm.
If the organization is making all these flexibilities, giving you options, supporting you, then you
Mhm.
also need to be clear of what you are delivering and what
Complete.
is your commitment. It cannot constantly be a what is my company doing for me,
No, obviously, obviously.
right? And
At the end of the day,
females
they
will
also.
also, it doesn't happen. See, what happens is, say you took a break for 2 years and you come back, you want the same promotion and the same salary and the same increment as a colleague who didn't take that break.
Right.
Now, that colleague could be a man or a woman who decided not to take that leave for family or whatever reason and has been working for 2 years and has grown that ladder. So the
Right.
challenge comes when you come back and you expect everything while you've not walked that path and you're
No,
not ready
obviously.
to accept that you were not there for 2 years. So people have moved. You'll have to come in at fairness and you'll have to grow. You will have to again sort of, I wouldn't say reinvent the wheel, but also the expectation somewhere has become that everything will be laid out. I think that's also a little unfair, and that leads to certain people having those biases grow in their heads.
Exactly. So it is more about it is the flexibility is there, but how to prove your worth, how you are, setting up, meeting the expectations, that is entirely on the individual. They have to make sure that what is expected, and they are not anywhere, just taking the advantage of the benefits being provided, rather they are also putting into their 100% effort into this. So then
Correct,
only we will be doing the justice, irrespective of the fact that person is a man or woman or anyone.
correct, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so actually, thank you. I mean, we couldn't actually even understood how well this time actually has gone. So it is really great talking to you, Sakshi, and thank you for your time for this station.
Thank you, Swarnali, and the entire INT team, and wishing all of you a Women's Day.
Sure. Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.